The Engagement Tempest Trials event is accompanying this year's bridal banner. As usual, if you earn the maximum 50,000 points, you can get up to 42 orbs, 11,000 feathers, and 80 secret coins. For this month, you can get 50 Ephemera 5 divine codes and 1 wind blessing for legendary Sigurd from last month. For sacred seals, we got 2 newcomers in Res Opening and Blade Session. As for the reward unit, this time you can get Groom Zelot to accompany his wife Juno on the banner. We'll talk about him more later on. Our first Sacred Seal is Res Opening 3. At the start of the turn, grant +6 resistance to the ally with the highest res for 1 turn, excluding the user. This will be our first opening Sacred Seal, and opening buffs are nice for guaranteed buffing on a certain unit. Res Opening will always give res buffs to your highest res unit, and it works from anywhere on the map. You can buff multiple allies if they all have the same res stat. In general, opening buffs are dependent on team comps, since you can beforehand know exactly who's going to get the buff. They can be nice for certain units or skills that depend on having a bonus active on them. For example, Dual Erica needs a bonus or a penalty on her to activate the second portion of her weapon. For defense teams, if you can fandangle your units to have the same res stats, then Res Opening can buff multiple allies, and that would be pretty nice. Another use case is for legendary Eliwood. He applies bonus doubler and attack and defense buffs to the ally with the highest attack stat, so if that ally were also to have the highest res stat on your team, then Res Opening can supply them with another stat boost. Overall, Res Opening probably isn't an immediate upgrade Sacred Seal. It depends on your specific units and team comp needs. Next we have Blade Session 3. If unit initiates combat, grants bonus to units attack and speed during combat equal to 3 plus the number of allies who have already acted times 3. This has a max of +9 attack and speed. So Blade Session is a really unique skill and was only ever present on Tsubasa. It was meant to represent game mechanics from Tokyo Mirage Sessions where you can chain attacks for more damage. To break it down, Blade Session is a pure player phase skill and competes with Swiss Sparrow. No matter what happens, if you initiate with Blade Session 3, you will always get +3 attack and speed. This is 1 less than the Swiss Sparrow 2 Secret Seal. However, if you have 1 ally who has acted, aka they are grayed out on the map, then Blade Session gets 1 ally times 3 plus the present 3 attack and speed. This gets you to +6 attack and speed, which outperforms Swiss Sparrow 2, attack and speed bond 3, life and death 3, and matches the stat boost from attack and speed solo 3. If you have 2 allies who have acted before the user, then you go up to +9 attack and speed, which is actually just insane coming from the Sacred Seal slot. For Tsubasa, as the OG Blade Session user, her weapon already has a similar playstyle. If she can go after any ally, then she gets more attack and speed and a desperation effect. In a sense, Tsubasa was already doubling down on this Blade Session playstyle, and now she can triple down if you want. In an ideal scenario, 2 Blade Session skills give you +18 attack and speed, and it's inheritable by any unit type. Unfortunately or fortunately, Tsubasa was just present on the recent Legendary Hero Remix banner, so you could do a double Blade Session build if you want. It will be another attack and speed option for the Sacred Seal slot, but it does require a little bit of work to get the max potential. Still, it means you can just take a safer A skill like regular Swiss Sparrow and then fit in Blade Session when needed. It is a player phase skill, so it won't replace attack and speed solo, and it's not the best for attackers who attack first. For example, a desperation user may just instead want to use Brazen attack and speed. Personally, if you do have the coins and you love attack and speed increasing skills, then I think Blade Session is worth trying out. Remember, at base value, it only has 1 less attack and speed than Swiss Sparrow 2, but moving 1 ally will immediately increase its value. I already mentioned it a lot, but Harmonized Catcher with her triangle attack status does synergize with Blade Session, since you typically are going to need to set up allies in position, and that's going to give you Blade Session's +6 or +9 attack and speed. This isn't a skill you want to throw in every player phase unit out there, but it certainly has good potential in the less riskier Sacred Seal slot where you're free to experiment.
Forgive me, seeing Juno looking so radiant, it gladdens my heart.
We went from one heroic girl unit who is desperate to see his long-lost wife to an actual bride and groom themed event. Unlike Port Orson, Groom Zelot is here to celebrate with his very much not dead wife. Zelot is married to Juno, so you can reunite the two. As a unit, Groom Zelot is an Axe Cavalier with 41 HP, 37 attack, 25 speed, 39 defense, and 25 resistance. His 39 base defense ties for highest in the cavalry class with Grandpa Duso, and Zelot even has a defense super boon. In fact, he actually has speed and res super boons as well, so if you want to invest in him, you can have some options. Compared to other Axe Cavaliers, 41 HP, 37 attack is quite standard, 25 base speed is in that weird spot between too slow and salvageable, and 25 base res is honestly quite high in conjunction with how insane his defense stat is. Obviously, Zelot will be in the slower Axe Cav category, but we'll do some more comparisons later. For his inherited weapon, Zelot has the Love Candelabra Plus. This is a 14-bit axe that shares a similar effect to Juno's Tome from the banner. It grants plus 4 attack and defense to allies within 2 spaces, and then grants plus 4 attack and defense to the user if they are within 2 spaces of any ally. This will be a joint drive attack and joint drive defense weapon. Very basic support weapon, but it does grant combat stance if you stay with the team. For a slower unit like Zelot, he will already be more fitted to an enemy phase playstyle, so Love Candelabra works nicely for him. You can get the benefit of buffing any nearby allies, and you can just very easily stack other types of buffs. In general, if you just want the support buffing capabilities of Love Candelabra, then it would be nice on an Axe Dancer. Unfortunately, there are only 2 Axe Dancers in the whole game. One is New Year's Azura, and the other is the Performing Arts Azura, aka the Mysterious Dark Blue one. That Azura already has your own unique axe, but if you want in-combat buffs, then Love Candelabra can fit in. Back to his base kit, Groom Zelot comes with Ignis, which is no surprise for a high defense unit. His A skill is attack and defense form, which does fit him fine and fits with the Love Candelabra's affinity for sticking with the team. He will then have drive attack 2 to apply 3 more attack on top of Love Candelabra. Not a very fancy base kit, but everything does its job and synergizes with the idea of benefiting from staying near allies. For merging, if you stick with the neutral nature, Zelot gets plus 1 HP, attack and defense. Perfectly fine to keep, but he does have 3 super boons in speed, defense, and res if you want to spend trait fruits. That could be nice for a speed focused build since 25 speed is in that really awkward low to middle tier speed, but it can be salvaged to some degree. If you just want to go on a full on tank setup, then another plus for res would be helpful in balancing Zelot's stats. Hasn't even been a month since I was complaining about the devs adding more Lance Cavaliers when we only have 2 free to play sword cows. Meanwhile, we've gotten 3 heroic Axe Cavaliers in less than 6 months. Instead of Axe Infantry units, we're moving on to Axe Cavs. Luckily, Zelot does separate himself from Spring Soleil and Pledge and Mail Chris. Those 2 are our speedier Axe Cav options, and Zelot will fit in with the slower, tankier crew. His only real free-to-play competition is Walhart, but Zelot has a lot more res to work with. Walhart's Wolfberg is a solo type weapon that does boost speed, so with a future refine, he probably is going to be able to use speedier builds better. If you love Candelabra, Zelot already is more of a team player anyway, so he does play different from Walhart's Conqueror style. For Groom Zelot, we actually now have more heroic Axe Cavs than through the 4-star summonable options. Lex is the most recent addition, and while he does have high defense, Lex also has his own Goddess Axe, which is a dual-phase brave weapon. Very unique weapon for a low rarity unit. As you can see though, Zelot brings his monster defense stat with a res stat that isn't sub 20. If you want a more traditional balanced tank, he's going to be your best option since Frederick, Gunter, and Titania's refines aren't exactly that crazy. That being said, if you want an Axe unit that is going to stick with the team, you could just use an Axe Infantry unit who will have more base stats to work with. The Tank Cavalier playstyle is just a bit weird unless you have really min-max stats and have fallout based effects. Case in point, Mr. Duso. Zelot can get the job done, but if you aren't utilizing his cavalry through movement, then you may want an infantry unit instead. In terms of builds and playstyles, Zelot knows what type of unit he wants to be with that base kit. Love Candelabra and attack and defense form are just fine for a budget quick repose build. His high defense is great, and if you want, you can double up on attack and defense form with the Sacred Seal. Feel free to run a res increasing seal with a res stat refine for a more balanced tank setup. Now if you just want to support the team with Love Candelabra like Juno, Zelot can choose from a large variety of C skills and Sacred Seal buffs. He can go with double drive skills, closer distant guard, double tactic buffs, or good old spur skills. If you want, you can even use a Link B skill to give field buffs because that's going to stack with Love Candelabra's in combat buffs. If you want kill pressure from Zelot, then you will need to find a spot for quick repose though. If you want more expensive support skills, Zelot could go for the Rally plus Ruse combo, joint drive buffs, or joint hone buffs. For combative skills, he can replace attack and defense form with attack and defense unity to always keep his attack and defense stat intact, or the usual tier 3 dual stance. Again, if you want to kill stuff, then quick repose will probably need to find a spot somewhere, although low attack and defense plus QR isn't bad. Now as an Axe unit, Zelot has a whole arsenal of inheritable axes to choose from. Love Candelabra isn't bad, but if you want more combative power, you have options. For defensive enemy phase axes, you could go with the Guard Axe or Hacker Lantern for guard. For res tanking, the Bear Axe is available. Rear Guard is for defense, but honestly I think Love Candelabra is fine for that job, and same goes for the Reprisal Axe. Now if you want attack, defense, and special cooldown charge, then Huge Fan Plus can be great. Cavaliers struggle with cooldown reduction skills, and this is one way to get some faster specials. You need a bonus active to proc Huge Fan, so you do want to buff on Zelot or from his allies. Now for offensive axes or axes with different playstyles, then we got a lot of fun stuff. If you want an X version of Orson who doesn't have to go super far away from the team, then Dex Swabber from Darius is available for the solo playstyle, -5 attack and defense debuffs, and you neutralize attack and defense buffs on the enemy. We then got tons of solo skills to customize with, including speed and res focused ones if you want a better all-around solo unit. At least, unlike Orson, Zelot can stay within 2 spaces of an ally, proc all his solo skills, and still receive buffs from them. It's just less of a headache, and you get better res tanking than Bereft Lance. For other axes, the Ninja Masakari is an option, although I was just going with Soleil or Male Chris since they have better quad attack potential. The Pelagian Axe got a whole lot more interesting with the introduction of the Menace C skills. If you can land those, then Pelagian Axe is just insane. Last, you could also borrow Soleil's Springy Axe. This is an attack and speed focused weapon, and while again Soleil and Chris are more offensive naturally, I won't stop you if you want to go with the speed super boon on Zelot with tons of speed stacking skills. If you want Kanto for any reason, attack and defense near Trace from Harmonized Catria on the banner is now available. For some closing thoughts, res opening can be useful for very specific units or team comps. Blade's Session is a surprise, and it's much better off in the Secret Seal slot. You can now try it out without needing a 5-star only unit. As for Groom Zelot, he's bringing very high defense without super awful resistance to the Axe Cavalry class. He basically fills in the slow Axe Cav role for heroic grow options, and well, he's almost like an Axe version of Orson minus the unique weapon. Speaking of which, Love Candelabra is all about staying with the team to buff them and buff the user. It's a very simple support weapon, but if you want better combative power, Zelot has a wide variety of inheritable axes to choose from. Zelot is fine as a slower tankier cavalier, but for some players, if you wanted an enemy phase, high defense unit, well, we got a lot of axe infantry units to fill in that role. Spring Soleil and Pelagian Male Chris can at least use their 3 movement for far-reaching initiations since they have good speed stats for doubles. If Zelot is just staying with the team to buff them with Glove Candelabra or just baiting enemies with quick repose, well, you don't exactly need 3 movement for that. Still, if you want to stack tons of defense, Zelot can do that. If you want to build more resistance, maybe use Distant Counter, Zelot can also do that. He's not bad, just not the most exciting unit. Regardless, always worth it to grab everything from the Tempest Trials, and if anything, you could just make Zelot into a super simple buff bot. Let me know your thoughts on these Secret Seals or Groom Zelot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.